So, ladies and gentlemen, how is everybody doing? I am freezing cold and sleep deprived, but I have to shoot it down here because she's sleeping upstairs. And if I wake her up now, there's going to be a heavy storm before the storm really comes. Because, as you know, they said that the biggest storm in 18 years is coming in California in a day or two. So, yeah. So, anyway, today we're going to be talking about 7th Lord in the 12th house, which is the end of our 7th Lord series. And what happens when the planet that controls the 7th house is sitting in the 12th house? And obviously, if you do not know where your 7th Lord is placed and you know where your other lords through houses are placed, for that check out the links here and check out my full astrological report, including my book Astrology, Conjunction and Aspects at the Speed of Light. So, 7th Lord. What is 7th Lord? 7th Lord simply represents your marriage partner, your life partner, your spouse. It represents business partnership. It represents diplomacy in business, negotiation, dealing with things. You know, it represents courthouses, as you know. But mainly, you know, we always concentrate on the spouse factor because that is the main thing. You know, how many people you're going to find in a business partnership versus people who are married. So this is why I take the common theme of spouse and talk about that. So what is the 12th house? 12th house represents isolation, spirituality, meditation, imagination. It is a house of expenses and losses. It's a house of foreign lands, foreign settlements. So when 7th Lord goes in the 12th house, shows that your spouse will be in foreign lands or will come from foreign lands. It also shows that you're looking for a spouse who can enhance your spiritual life, who can enhance your ability to meditate better, to listen to spiritual scriptures better. You're also looking for a spouse who can help you elevate your imagination, who can help you go into the dream world and dream with you. You know, like how we all daydream? You're kind of looking for a spouse who will daydream with you. But mainly, what I have always seen with this placement is that even if a spouse is not from foreign lands, these people usually attract a spouse who helps them travel a lot to foreign lands. Like these people definitely are looking for a spouse who will travel with them to foreign lands, who will take their desire of, you know, expressing themselves in foreign lands. And especially you got to know is that the 7th house is the house of other people, house of all the strange people you meet. And because 7th Lord in the 12th house shows that you would rather meet people of foreign lands and foreign culture than meet people of your own culture. And as I said, that 7th Lord is place of isolation, where you feel isolated, where if your 7th Lord is placed in the 12th house, you would rather work alone than work with other people. And with this 7th Lord being placed in the 12th house shows that you want a spouse who will help you isolate you from other crowds and other places. Perhaps you meet a spouse who takes you to foreign lands where there's a lot more calmness, not as much of a rush hour and, you know, hogwash of the city. You're looking for like a confined private space for your spouse to take you in. Now, another thing that 12th house represents is it's a house of losses. It's a house of expenditure. Now, 7th Lord in the 12th house, usually people say, oh, well, you will lose your spouse. You will lose, you will have a lot of expenses. What they do not understand is that if the 7th Lord, you know, is well placed in the 12th house, your spouse can actually help you mitigate your expenses, can help you actually control your expenses. At the same time, since the 12th house is a house of addiction, shows that your spouse can actually help you get rid of your addiction, get rid of the bad habits that you have, that you do in the privacy of your own self. But if 12th Lord is in bad dignity, then yes, there will be a lot of expenditure due to spouse's health. And at the same time, because of this expenditure shows that your spouse may also help you indulge in addictive activities. Perhaps they party a lot, they lavish lifestyle, and they want you to spend a lot of money on alcohol, booze, drugs, and you kind of get caught up in that. But that all depends on the dignity. If the planet is in friendly sign, friendly nakshatra, how is it conjunct, how is it aspected, okay? But these are the main meets of 7th Lord in the 12th house, where the spiritual part of life really becomes amplified. Now, depending upon what planet controls your 7th Lord, 7th house, and go to the 12th house, you may experience things differently of the 12th house. Oh man, it is seriously windy out on the main road. So here I am in my little multi-garage. As you see, that's my car in the background. So if you ever see this car in California driving, make sure you look inside. It might be me sitting in there. So let's say if Sun controls your 7th house and Sun goes into the 12th house, what this shows is that your spouse and the person that you will meet may actually have no ego. They will help you lose your ego. They will help you show the path of hard work, path of discipline and organization. Your spouse might be actually in a government in a foreign land, due to the fact Sun represents government, and as well as the sign of Capricorn. It shows that your spouse might be in an executive position in a foreign land. But if, let's say, this Sun is in bad dignity, it also shows that your spouse may hurt your self-esteem and your ego. They may damage your self-esteem and ego if Sun is receiving any bad negative aspect. Now, if Saturn aspects Sun, it's not going to damage the Sun as much because Sun is sitting in its own house. No planet is going to damage their own house. They're actually going to add more duty to it. Your spouse will be very dutiful when it comes to spiritual things and religious activities, more so spiritual activities. They will be very much involved. They will feel like spirituality and, traveling to foreign lands is a duty. But, there's always a negative side to anything. So that can also happen because Sun is your ego and your self-esteem. Let's say if Moon controls your 7th house, Moon goes into the 12th house, shows that your spouse will be very spiritual, very philosophical. Their mind will always be in foreign lands, and due to that, they will help you go to foreign lands. They will help you find happiness in foreign lands. Through your spouse, your emotional balance will come when you guys are doing spiritual things together, when you are going to spiritual monasteries together, isolated place together. And show that your peace of mind will always be when you're traveling with your spouse. If you travel alone, you're not as satisfied. But when your spouse is with you, your mental balance happens. You feel very well balanced in your mind and you just love being with your spouse. Now, if Mercury controls your 7th house, Mercury goes into the 12th house, shows that your spouse is all about extrapolating and analyzing the secretive side of life. You meet your spouse in such a way where you love communicating about the occult, about research. Perhaps your spouse is in a research facility, like a scientist, they're a doctor working in a hospital. Or your spouse is an investigative journalist in foreign lands. But what this shows is that between you and your spouse, there will be a lot of discussion about the occult and the secrets hidden in this world. So it's not a bad placement, unless, of course, again, negative aspects are there, then this spouse can bring a lot of addiction within your life, a lot of abuse in communication as well in this, with this kind of a pattern. If, let's say, Venus controls your 7th house, Venus goes into the 12th house, what this shows is that you and your spouse, or you look for a spouse who creatively wants to who can enhance your qualities, who is very spiritual, loves traveling to foreign lands, love experiencing different culture, at the same time is into meditation and loves talking about the imaginative, fictional side of life. And this shows that your spouse might be a writer, might be, a actor, might be a stage actor, or there will simply be spiritual teachers, because Venus wants to really express itself in the 12th house. This is why Venus is exalted in the 12th house originally, in the sign of Pisces. Because remember, 12th house always has an energy of Pisces in it, no matter what sign rises. So Venus here shows that your spouse loves being in company of spiritual people. But at the same time, if this is a Venus that might get damaged, then shows that spouse might be a sex addict, spouse might be a drug addict, spouse may have secret relationships in foreign lands behind your back. But, anything is possible. Again, like I said, don't go on these basic judgments. You have to look at the chart. And of course, one day we'll discuss all of this. Why is it that second lord in the 8th house might be good or might be bad? We'll discuss all of this. Let's say if Mars controls the 7th house, Mars goes into the 12th house, shows that your spouse is a very energetic, active person in isolated places. Like your spouse might love practicing martial arts, yoga, and at the same time, your spouse could be an engineer in foreign lands. Your spouse could be in, medical field in a foreign land. Your spouse could be a surgeon, because Virgo is a sign of healthcare and healing. Mars is using sharp objects, which surgeon uses. So anything like acupuncture, surgeon can be seen in this. But at the same time, shows that your spouse loves involving you in physical activities of spirituality, which is yoga. And I've seen this quite a bit of times, where especially Mercury and Mars conjunction in the 12th house being the 7th lord, they love doing Tai Chi and martial arts and all of these activities. And especially shows that because Mars in the 12th house aspects its own house, it will not really damage its own house, its own significance. It will not let it damage. It will protect it. The only way this can backfire is if there is an enemy in the 7th house that goes against Mars. That's when the war can occur with Mars's aspect. But Mars is protecting his own house. Simply shows that there's a lot of passion, a lot of sexual passion that happens behind the scenes, because 12th house is bed pleasures. Let's say if Jupiter controls your 7th house, Jupiter goes into the 12th house, shows your spouse definitely can be in banking and finance in foreign lands. Your spouse can be working in a food industry in foreign lands. Your spouse is very philosophical, spiritual. Your spouse wants to involve you in spiritual and religious activities, especially spiritual, because Jupiter kind of becomes a beacon of spirituality in the 12th house. And what this also shows is that your spouse may actually be a professor in foreign lands, teacher in foreign lands, and your spouse helps you grow spiritually in this life. And at the same time, your spouse enhances your finance, enhances your luck in finance as soon as you move to foreign lands with your spouse. Let's say if Saturn controls your 7th house, goes into the 12th house, shows that you will run into a foreign spouse who will not be of the same religion or same caste. Your spouse will be quite mature in age, but at the same time, your spouse will be a traveler who also might be in a government administrative field. And this placement of Saturn especially shows somebody who gains a spouse who will enhance their activities of the occult, activities of things that are buried underground. Because Saturn is a significator of 8th and 12th house, and Saturn sits in the 12th house. And so here shows that a lot of activities regarding the occult, regarding strict spirituality, not like fun spirituality. Your spouse may be a religious person who gets up in the morning, does meditation, does yoga, and wants to involve you in it. So this is why this could be a positive and a negative thing at the same time. Here, what this can show is that your spouse will help you eliminate your expenses. Because remember, wherever Saturn sits, it'll suppress those things, whether good or bad. The bad side of 12th house is expensive. So Saturn will eliminate the expenses. So your spouse may not be such a spender. They may want to control your expenses and their expenses at the same time. And this can also show that your spouse could be in a non-profit organization in the foreign lands. They could be working in a healthcare field in a foreign lands. But definitely, spouse will bring a lot of maturity and seriousness to the side of imagination and spirituality. Your travel could be strictly due to either work or strict spiritual principles. Like your spouse is a spiritual person, travels to pilgrimages and wants you to travel and not have fun, just follow the instructions. So it can become a dry life, unless of course a lot of people have Saturn being aspected by positive planets, where it kind of becomes a good discipline and a good organization scenario here for the person. And there's no, even though Saturn rules the 7th house, you still have to be aware that it's the marriage might be delayed and may actually happen in foreign lands, especially if you're a Cancer ascendant. So guys, this was my analysis of 7th Lord in the 12th house. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And again, if you want to know where your 7th Lord is placed and all the other planetary aspects and conjunctions, for that, check out the links here and check out my full astrological report on the website, including all my books with secrets of astrology. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.